We're talking with Jonathan Shaw, the Associate Head of the Department of Media at the Coventry School of Art and Design, who does some interesting things with open learning and photography. Tell us about Phonar.
Okay, yeah, Phonar is one of our open photography classes that we run here in the middle of the UK. It's short, it's the hashtag for photography and narrative. It's a third-year undergraduate class on one of the courses that I oversee in the Department of Media. In a sense, it kind of evolved and came out of this idea that we had a small group of students who were, I suppose, determined not to think beyond the room that they were being taught in. And so what we decided to do is to change that dynamic. So in other words, if you don't know who is in that room when you go to somewhere new, somewhere strange, what happens is you become very conscious of your character and your personality. If we were trying to get them to think professionally, this meant by sort of opening the doors and introducing the photographic community in, they started thinking differently. What also happened is other conversations, other dialogues were also taking place. So it meant people like Professor David Campbell came and joined us, spoke about kind of the power and narrative of photography. And it really sort of changed things quite dramatically for us in a very good way.
So when you said open the doors, how did you do that?
We piloted it with another open class that was a second-year class called PicBod, which is short for Picturing the Body. And we piloted, ran it through a blog. We made all of our material open. We sought to share it very much in the analogy of a meeting. So as we meet now, 18 years after I first started reading your things, for me to be able to speak to you has taken, let's say, 18 years. If I want to facilitate that for our students in a different way, we need to enable what's taking place now with digital technologies for our students while they're studying with us. So they don't, let's say, in my case, have to wait 18 years to have a conversation. We ran it through a blog, so technically it's running it through a blog. It's using all of the feeds and the streams that the students are naturally using. You know, they are native to all of this. You know, you and I, we've had to learn it. We pick it up as we go along. They're native. So what we're doing is using those streams, but trying to find ways that actually we can join the dots and they become aware of their digital profile as opposed to purely using it for social means and social kind of pleasure and engagement.
Specifically, how did they do that about becoming aware of their digital profile?
Well, all of our undergraduate students, that's about 600 students now, from the day they arrive, run their own blog, and we've been doing that for the last 3 or 4 years. Directly into these classes, we want to encourage them to use it in a critical way. So we use things like Twitter as a way of them kind of providing their notes in preparation for meetings, in preparations for a visiting speaker coming in, somebody who's contributing, or simply in preparation for coming into one of the classes. So in other words, the conversation has started the minute they arrive through the door, rather than then thinking, right, it's 9:30 in the morning, they've all been out, it's a Wednesday night, how do we suddenly shake them out of that? We've got a conversation, an opener, before they even come into the room.
How do you do that? What do you tell your students about Twitter, and how do you get them to start engaging using that medium?
I mean, this is where we have, I suppose, a team of us. So my role is I oversee these things, and I work very closely with some fantastic colleagues, Matt Johnston and Jonathan Worth, who are very much the front face of this. I'm not necessarily great on the camera. I'm a photographer. I like being behind the camera. But I mean, what we do is the material is made available, or sometimes we can have it as a live Skype. So the students, during this kind of feed, or the availability of the material beforehand, is we hashtag. So this is where the PicBod and Phonar come in. So depending on which class they're on, they would hashtag it that. We use things like Storyfy to then aggregate all of those notes. And this is where, by having remote students who also take part, so this year, for instance, we had 1,000 people sign up for Phonar with a class which has about 20 to 30 students. So the remote students also feed into that. So this conversation, this group of students, this dialogue, this critique that we're trying to facilitate or to curate around a particular topic, a particular context, is full of stuff before we've even got going. And that it's very, incredibly motivating and stimulating.
So 1,000 students, and this is a photography class. How do
Yep.
people share their photography with each other at that scale?
Okay, well, we've got, people engage with it at different levels. Some people like to dip in and out to follow, and, this is where we're using kind of tags and categories quite a lot. We've been able to develop apps. So in other words, people can dip in and out to the bits of material they want. We make our tasks available, and so I suppose one of the things I should have said is the classes run for 10 weeks within the year. So they are on a rolling cycle, and we've just written and proposed the same for a new MA in photography as well. So for 10 weeks of the year, they run as live experiences. Outside of that period of time, they exist as an ongoing accumulative resource for people to kind of pull from, remix, reuse, repurpose. It's great for college lecturers in terms of preparation for their students coming into higher education. Sorry, your question was what again?
Well, so the individual students have their own blogs, and you can pull their photographs from an RSS feed?
Yes.
Or how do you aggregate all of those photographs? How are they available to each other?
Yeah. Well, we feed. So with the apps, we kind of use Twitter, we use Flickr, and we use our blogs, and we kind of relate into the students' blogs. So with Flickr, for instance, it's all hashtagged PicBod or Phonar, depending on which class is running. We also have one generally for the course, which is Cup Hot, short for CU Photography. So by simply hashtagging it, it pulls into our feed. So through the app, it immediately kind of, especially during the periods of the tasks, we're able to set it so that the feed, the gallery that we then see, that we share, that the students can share, the remote students can share, is then simply made available from that. So it's not setting up, requesting, putting a gateway in the way that says you have to come through this to be able to join our club. It's simply, if you're involved in this, if you want to associate with these classes, you use the simple mechanisms of hashtags. But the great thing of that, through both our blog, through the relevant apps, we can kind of filter it, we can change it. So for instance, in terms of the sharing and the photography as an object, as a product itself, PicBod is very much focused on the artifact and arcane processes. So we teach through digital media to make the object and understanding that process more valid, more precious and treasured. So we were able to get Arts Council funding to get a photographer in residence who was there, who offered and shared and opened up his knowledge and skills of kind of silver gelatin printing. He made that material available online. Opened up his project. So it's that balance between very much the experiences that we're seeking to facilitate by using digital media almost as the conduit for lots of different kind of ways of doing what we do.
You had mentioned configuring buildings, physical buildings. How does that fit in?
It's where I kind of don a hat and enjoy hard hats for the last 3 years. What we found is traditionally universities have that huge lecture theatre where the person who knows everything, the knowledge is at the front, and then everybody is sat facing them. So in other words, it says you sit there, you listen to what we have to say. If we're interested in my department and as part of the courses that I oversee, in changing that mindset, if I go into a room and it's a room which has that dynamic set with it, then I'm going to just sit and expect to be broadcast out. So what we've done over the last 3 years is seek to change that. So we've got rid of all of those. We've opened the spaces up. Thought quite hard to facilitate something which is flexible. So it means our students maybe have to stack their chairs. And I do remember when we did this, they said, but I now have to stack my chair. So I pointed out, do you want to stack a chair and move from one side of the room to another room, or do you want to move within 2 minutes from one building on the campus to another building? And by the way, you've got 2 minutes to do that. So what we've done is we've opened the spaces up so we can use them for more traditional lectures, but they're not configured that way. So all of the chairs stack, the tables fold, we can set it up for group, workshops, seminars, We've also been able to stop having kind of labs. Traditionally, at my university, we would have, with video editing, we would put some incredibly expensive, probably spend £500,000 on a video edit suite, which gives us 30 computer stations. So in other words, I can get 30 people in the room to be sat as I am in front of this computer, but they can only access it when they come to our building at the point that we deem that they are available for them. So by saying changing these rooms, it means I've also got to change these labs. By changing those labs, it's meant we go mobile. So all of the students who will be coming and joining us from September onwards, so our new crop of students, and as that kind of filters through, will be having a laptop, which means they can be mobile and they can work 24 hours a day. I'm fairly sure your working methods and my working methods is, I want to do something and I want to do it now. I need the equipment to enable me to do that. So it's, for some students, that enables them with tailored software to have, the high end. So we're not dumbing down what they would traditionally get in these in these labs. But for students who are really wanting to be engaged and connected, they can do it. So the Wi-Fi is all increasing. So this is going to be the first time we do it. So there's lots of, I'm sure I'm going to be facing lots of headaches, but I just think they're going to be super exciting ones to really see what happens. And so through this year, we're going to be working with the students to really try and work out what they like, what works, and what doesn't. So when they want to be connected and when we don't. But I think it's also going to have to really raise the game of our lecturers.
What do you have in mind next for pushing the boundaries in the future?
Isn't that enough? No.
It's a lot.
Yeah, we've been able to do quite a lot over the last 4 years. So we started with photography. My head of department, who is both supportive of this and has really been able to extend and expand this across the department throughout this year. So rather than it just being in my area of specialism, photography, this is now very much part of the wider culture of the department. So it's into media and communications, which deals with, takes more of a media and cultural slant on kind of information and ways of engaging, but also into media production, where our students are normally very technically orientated. So with Pete Woodbridge, he's really been able to focus that around creative activism. So in other words, the focus of that is have something that you believe in and have something you want to say. And he's really interested in working into the P2PU kind of initiative that I know some of the people you've been talking with are working into too. So what else have we been doing? So yeah, this year we'll have got, by September, we'll have got the 2 apps launched with them on multi-platform. At the moment they are only on Apple. But we're really keen to push the engagement and that sense of being able to share, favourite, and kind of personalise this information. I mean, each of these classes probably over a year has 300 posts. So imagine coming after the 10-week class into that, it's enormous. It's almost inaccessible because of the content. So what we've been working quite hard on there is the kind of the taxonomy. So in other words, how you can search and find, the ability to favourite it. So that's how we work in this kind of digital age. I want shortcuts. So we're looking at that. Looking at more a range of working with MOOCS publishing in London around kind of curated publications which are tailored to the course. So looking quite a lot, I suppose, at resource-based things and how we can both change the experiences but also change their access to the resources. So
fantastic.
Yeah, hopefully.
Good luck, and thank you, Jonathan.
Not at all. Thanks, Harry. It's lovely to meet you.